Councilors, I hereby call the special meeting of the Brockton City Council to order for 7 o'clock, November 27, 2017. Specifically, it's the tax levy, tax factor hearing. If we could, since it is a city council meeting, if we could all stand and salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, councilors. Mr. Clerk.
We have the call of the meeting.
It's accepted and placed on file.
We have the officer's return of notice.
That also is accepted and placed on file.
And the hearing.
Order that the City Council hereby determines that the percentage of the local tax levy in accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 40, Section 56, to be borne by each class of real property is defined in Section 2A of Chapter 59 of personal property. Time having arrived, I'm going to declare this hearing open. If there's anyone here in favor, and for practice purposes tonight, what we're going to do, much like what we've done in the past, councils, there is a sign-in sheet at the podium. If anybody is coming forward to speak to the council, again, this is a public hearing. By all means, you may be able to do that if you choose to. You need to sign your name, you need to sign your address, and if you're affiliated with anything, a business group or anything like that, I'd like you to put that down as well. With that being said, if anyone here in favor, please come forward. Mr. O'Donnell? Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, councilors. I'd like to make a brief statement concerning the fiscal year 2018 tax rate classification hearing. First, I'd like to thank the entire staff of the Assessor's Office for their support and assistance throughout the year. The assessed values for fiscal year 2018 represent the estimate of market value as of January 1st, 2017, utilizing verified sales data from calendar year 2016. Assessments represent 100% of market value as required by Massachusetts general law. The Department of Revenue has certified the real and personal property values for the city as well as the new growth value. The assessors are required to fairly assess 27,581 parcels in the city. There are 24,238 residential parcels, 1,750 commercial and industrial parcels, and 1,593 personal property accounts. The total taxable value of all real and personal property in the city for fiscal year 2018 is $7.1 billion, which is a 7.24% increase from fiscal year 2017. This year, the city added a total of $2,066,974 in new growth tax dollars in residential, commercial, and personal property. The median single-family assessed value for fiscal year 2018 has increased 8.74% from $215,100 to $233,900. The median two-family assessed value has increased 2.41% from $267,500 to $292,300. And the median three-family assessed value has increased 6.81% from $321,100 to $241,900. Whereas the median commercial assessed values for fiscal 2018 only increased 1.5% from $232,600 to $236,100. And the median industrial assessed value increased 1.01% from $244,950 to $246,600. People often associate rising assessments with rising taxes. However, this is not the case. Rising budgets cause rising taxes. If the budget increases, typically taxes increase. If the budget decreases, typically taxes decrease. The assessed value represents the market value of the property. If all assessments went down 25% and the budget increase, taxes will still increase. The purpose of tonight's tax rate classification hearing is to adopt a residential factor. The City Council will decide on how much the tax levy the owners of residential properties will pay and how much the tax levy the owners of commercial, industrial, and personal property will pay. This decision is what creates two tax rates, or a split rate in the City of Brockton. The split rate tax in the city of Brockton taxes commercial, industrial, and personal property at a higher rate than residential properties. If there's no shift, there would be one rate. Based upon this year's tax levy, the single rate for the city of Brockton would be $19.22. If the council decided on a single rate, the median single-family tax bill would increase $1,032.45. The median two-family tax bill would increase $1,361.89. The median three-family tax bill would increase $1,417.71, whereas the median commercial tax bill would decrease $3,124, and the median industrial tax bill would decrease $3,329. Last December, the City Council voted to set the fiscal year of 2017 shift factor at 1.70. This meant for fiscal year 2017, commercial, industrial, and personal property, while representing 19.45% of the total taxable value, paid 33.06% of the total taxes. Brockton continues to have the lowest average single-family tax bill of the surrounding towns. Based upon fiscal year 2017 data, the average single-family bill was $3,620 and was a $63 increase over fiscal year 2016. The average bill in the city was $1,239 lower than the average bill of the contiguous towns, including Brockton. Thank you, and I'll answer any questions.
O'Donnell, thank you. I also want to thank you and your staff for providing and documenting this information. It's very helpful for the council. Thank you. Councilors, any questions for Mr. O'Donnell while he's here tonight relative to his presentation? Anyone else here in the chamber would like to speak in favor of this matter? If so, please come forward and state your name. It's a public hearing. Mr. Kelly, again, if you could sign in and please write your residential address.
Hi, I'm Steve Kelly. I'm a resident of 45 Stonehill Street in Brockton. And I'm asking the City Council to keep the tax rate where it is or make it lower for residents. You know, I'm a senior citizen. I've lived in Brockton for about 37 years. And now I'm a retiree. I'm on a fixed income. I want to be able to live here and make the city prosper. You know, the Chamber of Commerce is here asking for residents to increase our burden. I'd ask them to support the pilot initiative, payment in lieu of taxes. Look, you know, I worked in human services for 40 years. And if you were to see how much money these nonprofits are getting from state contracts, you know, we're serving Brockton and all the contiguous communities. Yet the citizens of Brockton pay for all the police services that go out to these nonprofits, the fire services that go out there, etc. It's time for the nonprofits to pay their share. So I would ask that the Chamber of Commerce come out in favor of that pilot initiative. But I would advise you to keep the rates low for the residents. We can't afford any more.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Kelly.
you.
Mr. Kelly, if you could just sign your name on that sheet in front of you, please.
All set.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else here in the chamber in favor of this, please come forward. Attorney Holland.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I'm going to echo Mr. Kelly as I sign my name here. I agree. We need to set the rate as low as you possibly can for the residents, because what's not said and what most people might not understand, because when you hear about, oh, it's a, you know, it's a 16% and it's a 1.7, 1.7 doesn't sound so bad until you realize that the reality is that your assessment is going to go up. That's what Mr. O'Donnell told everyone. Everyone's assessment on their houses is going to go up by 8.7%. So when your assessment goes up, even if you keep the tax rate at what you kept it last year, each individual single-family resident is going to get a jacked up bill that they're not expecting, quite frankly. Now, I don't know what the number is, but I'm going to suggest it's a pretty significant number, particularly if the assessed rate is going up almost 9%. That's a pretty high increase in your assessment, and you pay the assessment, the rate is based upon a 1,000 increment. So if you have you know, a $100,000 house or $200,000 house, and it goes up 8%. It's a lot of $1,000 in there. And that's going to impact what your rate is going to be. So, again, in years past, I understand that it's hard for the commercial, but the commercial, quite frankly, they're less here than they are elsewhere, and quite frankly, theirs is only going up 1.5%, their assessment. So they're going up just a teeny bit on assessment, and yet their rate would stay the same? I think no. I think we need to reduce that rate for the residents for this year at the lowest that you can possibly assess that at. I'm asking for 14.4. I realize that's a little bit out of whack, but please, set it as low as you can for the residents, because we are going to get whacked with that assessment that's going to increase our total tax bill. I want to make one comment, too. I mean, I understand you look at the surrounding towns, but I have to tell you, I have a niece who has property in Boston. Her house is double the value of my house. She pays half the amount of taxes that I pay. So I understand what a surrounding town might mean, but we're not a surrounding town, we're a city. And we need to be thinking about that when we're looking at these rates. Not what Avon's doing, but what these other cities are doing. So I urge you to please keep in mind that we need lower taxes for the residents. We can't afford it. And gosh knows, I don't want to bring up a lot of things, but we're not getting the services that we're even paying for. So we really shouldn't be asked to pay more for what we're not even getting. So I respectfully ask you to please reduce the tax as far as you possibly can. I don't know what the number is. I think they're looking for 1.7, but I don't know, if 1.75 makes it lower, then do that, or if it's the other way around. But please, reduce them, because we're going to get hit on our tax bills. All the residents are. And I don't know as though people really understand that when they hear 1.7%. Thank you.
Attorney Holmes, thank you. And what's your residential address for the record?
It is 65 Belcher Ave.
Thank you very much, Attorney. Anyone else here in the chamber in favor of this matter? Please come forward if you would like to speak. This will be the third and final time. If you're in favor, please come forward. Mr. Condon.
Good evening, Councilors.
Good evening.
John Condon, Chief Financial Officer of the city. Just a couple of comments, unless there's other comments coming up, but just a couple of comments before you make your decision. First, you're prohibited by statute from going any higher than a shift of 1.75, and you're at 1.7. So that's the most you can do under the law. And I'm going to recommend that you go somewhere between the 1.7 and 1.71, staying about where we are right now. And the reason for that is, if you're looking to protect the residential taxpayers long-term here in the city, the only way you can do that is by having commercial tax-based growth to give you a commercial sector to which you can shift some of these factors, some of these taxes. In Brockton, like a lot of communities, we're being affected by the really high rate of growth in residential property values in Boston. And that's pushing prices, especially south of Quincy, up in the community south of Route 128. And that's a trend I don't see changing, just as the properties are so expensive in Boston. The properties are going up down here because the demand from folks coming out of Boston is driving those properties up. And so we're stuck in a bit of a trap there. We're now at about 80% where the values of the city, a little bit more than 80%, the values of the city that are residential, either single or family, double, triple, but the residential sector is about 80%. And it's growing. If you look at the history of that percentage is growing. If you look at the history of the city's values, when the real estate crisis hit in 2008, we had a substantial collapse in the city's assessed values, mainly because of collapse in real estate prices for residential. And it's not even today with the $7.2 billion worth of value back to where it was in 2007. We haven't recovered all of that yet. But all of the growth is now occurring because of change in market value, for the most part, change in market value of residential properties. We don't get to tax the change in market value. That's affected by the rate. We get to tax new investment in the city, whether it's construction of new homes or the creation of a new business or investment by property owners in their current properties, in addition to a house or investment in a business. But pure market growth, we don't get to tax. So what we need is commercial growth in the city of Brockton in order to have a commercial tax base to which we can shift the tax levy so that the residents in Brockton, I don't have any dispute with what was said before tonight, the taxpayers in Brockton, many of them are not as well-to-do as those in surrounding communities, and so the imposition of taxes on them is a bit of a burden, and we have a high percentage of retirees in Brockton, and it's a bit of a problem for some of them. But if you shift too far towards 175, and you haven't got much further you can go, if you end up with a commercial tax rate which is uncompetitive with surrounding communities, I don't think it will cost you businesses who are here in Brockton, but it does become a disincentive for those businesses we're trying to recruit to Brockton. So that's my pitch. My concern is let's try to do the best we can for our residences, but know also that over the long run, you need a healthy commercial tax base in order to be able to shift the taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Condon. Third and final time, if anyone is here in the chamber that would like to speak on this in favor. Third and final, seeing none, that part of the hearing is closed. Do you want to speak in favor?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not closing it. I'm keeping it open, councilors.
My name's Jenny Mather. I don't live in Brockton, but I have a business in Brockton. I own JM Pet Resort and JM Pet Vet. And I do think that it's important, even though I'm a business, to keep the residential taxes low. I feel that way strongly. I grew up in Brockton. I know what it's like to be one of those struggling families. And I wish there was a way, though, because I'm also, I was a young entrepreneur that started a business in Brockton when everybody said it wouldn't succeed, and they were wrong. But at the same time, our city has to be attractive to new businesses, not so much the big business because they have the money to spend on taxes. So I remember a time when there was a TIF on West Chestnut Street. I remember that because I really wanted the sign design building. I had my eye on it, I couldn't afford it. And they capitalized on it, and look at how they've grown, and look at how many jobs that they have created. So although I'm in favor, definitely, of keeping the residents' taxes low, I wish there could be some sort of motion that would allow new businesses some sort of different incentive than the businesses that are established, which for me, I'm okay with taxes rising for a business that's established, because I feel that we should pay it. I feel that we owe the city to pay money for the services that we get. But I think in order to capture those new people that are really budding and young and energetic and can put a lot back into the city, you need to be attractive. You need to be able to say, look at Brockton, look at us. And they're not going to look at us if we're priced out of it because they can go somewhere where they feel it's a better fit because the taxes might be more attractive. And so that's how I feel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
This will be the third and final time. Anyone here in favor of this? Seeing none, that part of the hearing is closed. Anyone here in opposition? Anyone here in the chamber in opposition relative to this matter? Third and final time. Anyone here in opposition? That part of the hearing is closed as well. Now we come before the council in deliberation. Point of information, council, as you recall, this is the time where the council decide to factor with motions and seconds, and then when we do reach, and I'm hopeful we will reach that factor tonight, we will take a recess so that the legislative council and the clerk can calculate the numbers, then we'll come back in for a final ratification. Okay? What's the will of the council? Council Falwell.
Mr. Chairman, picking up initially on something that Mr. Condon said, the residential portion of our real estate is 81.66%. Unfortunately, I think that's skewed because a lot of the commercial property, our largest employers, are tax exempt. The VA hospital, the neighborhood health center, YMCA, Brockton Hospital, and while these pages aren't numbered, I think it's about, the 10th page in, and I do compliment the assessors for all of the information that they've provided. Real and personal value, $7.17 billion, and if I'm reading this properly, we have $1.1 billion in tax-exempt property, and I know Mr. O'Donnell's portion of the meeting is over, but that's, to me, that's quite an amount. I mean, just imagine if we were to recoup 10% of the taxes that were paid on that $1.1 billion, how much better the city would be. So now we turn to the issue of, yes, we do need to be business friendly. And if Mr. Cooney were here, as he was last year, I would probably agree with all of the points that he raises about being business friendly and attracting new business. The problem I have is that if you force people out of their homes, if you force them to move, if you take away the expendable income that they have, they're not going to be able to go out and visit our businesses and purchase goods and services. And one of the things that bothers me most about setting the tax rate now is there are only going to be 2 payments, and somebody jump up if I'm wrong, but there are only going to be 2 quarterly payments to make up for the entire fiscal year's increase. So whatever tax increases do occur, you're going to get a tax bill, I assume, in January, and you're going to get another one in March. So if your taxes go up for $400 in a year, you're not going to get 4 $100 options to pay it off. You're going to get a $200 increase and a $200 increase, and that really hurt some people last year. Thank goodness we did what we did with the factor last year, particularly in view of what happened to 2-family and 3-family. The other thing about business is, and I was teasing my colleague who has to order a tank of oil. She orders a tank of oil for $300 or $400. That doesn't come off her taxes. If you're a business, you can deduct your water, your sewer, your oil, your maintenance costs. In addition, we give businesses quite a bit of leeway in this city with tax increment financing. And about a year and a half ago, Mr. O'Donnell was kind enough to give me a list of businesses, some of which are multi-million-dollar businesses, and what we've done is to make it attractive for them to allegedly stay here, we've reduced their tax burden. We don't do that with a homeowner. If someone buys a $250,000 house in this city, they're going to get their full tax bill. There's nothing that allows us to offer other than exceptional school services, police and fire. There's nothing for us to offer to people if they're buying a single-family home. So where am I going with all this? We were at 1.70 last year. And again, if my math is correct, I'm looking at 1.73, which would mean that the commercial, industrial, and personal property would represent 31.91% of the tax burden, and the residential would be 68.09. Currently at 1.70, the commercial, industrial, and personal is at 31.17, so we would go from 31.17 to 31.72, and the residential would go from 68.64 down to 68.28. So I'm going to offer a motion that the tax factor be set for fiscal 17 at 1.73. I'm sorry, fiscal 18.
So motion on the floor offered by Councilor at-large Farwell to adopt a factor of 1.73. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
On the motion? On the motion.
I just want to say a couple of comments. We've been doing this for years, and one of the items Ms. Holmes said I couldn't agree with more. Boston is a great example of why we need to not go crazy with this going up on the commercial. We need to, we're all homeowners and taxpayers here, and we need to take care of our homeowners. But in the long run, as we lose or don't attract new businesses, that burden is taken up by the homeowner. No matter what factor we go to, when we lose a dollar amount of a business, that dollar amount doesn't go away from what we collect. That dollar amount is then taken up by the homeowners in the next fiscal year. And one other thing I'd just like to, when we do a TIF, it does not reduce anybody's tax burden. That only is on a future improvements that somebody does. A TIF never takes back from a current tax bill. So we do need to do what we can to make this competitive, to attract new businesses. And if I give this talk every year, if we had years ago started to drop this in small increments, we would probably have a much better tax base. You know, I mean, Boston's not the perfect example for us because we're never going to have the Prudential Tower or any of those things. But the businesses there pay the freight for the homeowners there because it's such a huge commercial tax base. We need to expand our commercial tax base here as a way to help our homeowners pay less taxes. It's short term, it is tough on the homeowner. We need to be careful of that. But long term, the city council through the years, and some of us have been here, some of us has not, in my opinion, done its job to make this, to help alleviate the burden on the homeowner by attracting more businesses. So I won't be able to vote for 173, and I hope we at least go no higher than the 170, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else on the motion? There's a motion on the floor. I'm going to roll it. There's a second on it. Those in favor of adopting a factor of 1.173. 173 as offered by Councilor Fowler. If you're in favor of that, please raise your hand. Please put your hands up high just so we can calculate.
3, 4, 5, 6.
If you're opposed, please raise your hand. Put it up high, please, councilors.
4, 2,
6 to 4. 6 to 4 vote. That factor passes. It will be a 173 factor on a motion that was seconded and lawfully voted. We will now take a 2-minute recess, councilors.
Then guess we all win.
Councilors, I hereby call the special city council meeting back into order. Mr. Clerk, if you could kindly read the order.
Okay. In City Council, November 27, 2017, ordered that the City Council hereby determines the percentages of the local tax levy in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, to be borne by each class of real property as defined in Section 2A of Chapter 59 and personal property. Residential, 68.27. Commercial, 21.97. Industrial, 3.84. Personal property, 5.92. The factor for such classification shall be 1.73.
Councilors, the question now is on adoption by a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, kindly read the roll.
Asak?
No.
Barnes?
Yes.
Beauregard?
Yes.
Cruz?
No.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
No.
Monahan?
No.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
6 in the affirmative. 4 negative.
Order is hereby adopted, councilors.
Mr. Chairman, I move reconsideration in the hope that it does not
Second.
prevail.
So motion for reconsideration, hopes it doesn't prevail, is properly second. All in favor of reconsideration, please raise your hand. All opposed? Motion for reconsideration does not prevail. Councilors, anything else before us? Seeing none, I'm going to call the special city council meeting to the conclusion. We'll see you back here at 8 o'clock for a full city council meeting.